All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 2. Josh and I are trying something new today. We are in separate places. Jesh is in LA and I'm in Seattle.
Yes, this is true. So, giving this a test ride, see how it goes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Might be tricky.
Yeah. But we're learning. This is the whole point. So we'll see if we can. If you see me look down a little bit here, same with Jesh, that's because we have each other on a separate phone and we're recording with a different device. So hopefully we can lay this audio over the video so you guys can have a video of us on YouTube as well if you'd like to listen to this episode that way.
Yes.
And for those of you that are audio listeners, this will be coming out on Anchor FM, which is who we've chosen to use for podcast recording at this point.
Yes. You can still listen to it on Apple Podcasts, though. And I believe like Amazon, Google, a couple other options.
Yeah,
But
Spotify.
it'll all be in the links. You guys will have access to everything it's on. So,
Yeah. All right. So hopefully, we don't have each other to look at. Uh, we're looking, we're each looking at the camera only. So um, if it feels awkward, we'll try another way of doing this. But hopefully, this will do it. This will be good.
yeah, I feel like it'll be all right. I
Yeah,
mean,
I do too.
we're pretty in tune with each other. You know how like twins have like spidey senses? I feel like
Yeah,
I'm pretty in tune to like when I know you're laughing or smiling,
right.
even if you're not making noises. So
That's true. That's right. Yeah. So well, hopefully we'll see how the video lines up with this whole thing in the end.
yeah.
But yeah, all right. Well, let's get on with it. So Josh and I talked a lot about if we should pick a topic for this second one, and we decided that maybe we would free flow this one and talk just a bit about Joshua's growing up and maybe tell some funny stories and let you guys get to know us just a little bit more so you can kind of see how we interact with each other. And I think that's good because I think going forward, it'll give you a good way of gauging what we look like when you're listening if there's not a video with it. And you'll get to know our facial expressions and how we communicate a little bit better. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Uh, So I'm gonna start, and we'll see where this goes. Um, I guess the first thing I was told Josh I was going to start with was um, Joshua was born several weeks early, and they didn't want him to be too big of a baby. They were a little worried about that for me personally. So Josh was induced almost 3 weeks early, and he was 10 pounds. So
Big kid.
big kid, 3 weeks early.
And I think we should also mention that you're not exactly a big lady yourself.
I'm not.
You're pretty
I'm
small.
not.
So
Yeah, I'm pretty small, which is what they were concerned about. They uh, did an ultrasound and thought Jesh was maybe around 7 pounds at 3 weeks, and they didn't want me going over 8 pounds. So they induced him at 3 weeks early, which is the safest time to do it when you're doing early. And he was 10 pounds. So that being said, Jesh's life started out just the way he's lived, always bringing an impact. um, he actually came out not breathing. Um, it was really scary. He was like a purple black color. I don't know how to describe it outside of the fact that it didn't look normal. And they took him right away and started working on him. And very quickly, he began breathing. And very quickly, his color and everything came back, um, which is also, I think, true to how Jesh has been. And he goes through some rough stuff, and he's quick to bounce back.
oh, so kind.
It's kind of true. Maybe that's where your like lucky streak
I
started, right? Like you get
mean,
into these really tough situations and you tend to come out faring pretty well, all things considered.
It's crazy. I mean, I can't just life-threatening situations alone are, like, almost dying the amount of times and,
Yeah.
like, how I've just been able to somehow get lucky and have a way through it without, most of the time, too big of consequences or,
Yeah.
like, haven't
Yeah, well,
died yet, so
you've been giving me a heart attack since the beginning.
yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's true.
keeping me on my toes for sure.
So
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean,
go ahead.
what was I don't know, because obviously we've talked a little bit, but I wanna hear, a little more, like, what was I like as, like, a young kid? I mean
Yeah, so you have always been a very I guess the best way to describe it is a big personality. I knew right away. I think you've heard me call you this before. You're definitely my soul child. I'm super, super, super close with your sisters. You know that.
Mhm.
With Addie and with Jada both. You all three are very different people. But you, I knew right away, carried probably the most, I feel like, personality that was closest to mine. I think I kind of knew that right at the beginning when you were little. Um, and I knew that you would um, be a big personality in our life. And you were super, super sweet. Always a very soft heart, tender heart. Um, yeah, like all around. Great. Incredibly stubborn. You've heard me tell you this story before. So Joshua's little sister, Jada, is only 13 months younger. And so they've been teased all growing up, and people always thought they were twins. They look a lot alike, very close in age. And when Jada was born, Josh was 13 months. He had been talking and walking all on like normal. Um, and when she was born, he decided he wanted none of it. He he was not happy to not be the baby anymore, and he decided he wasn't going to walk and he wasn't going to talk. And I had him in the doctors more times than I can count, swearing up and down like there has to be something wrong. And the doctors were like, no, he's just stubborn. He just doesn't want to do it. And so when Joshua finally decided, he finally started walking at about 2. But I think, Josh, you were about 2.5 when we went down to California. That's where my mom's side of the family's from. And that my cousins all had kids that are close in age, all of them. Um,
Yep.
and they were all running around and talking and having a good time. And, Jesh had been very quiet and didn't talk. And I would catch him every now and then in his room. I'd hear him talking and I'd go in to try to catch him. And of course, he would stop. And so,
Sounds about right. Every time mom walks in,
yes,
things go numb, like, "Nope,
that's true.
nothing's happening."
That's true. I knew he was practicing. I could tell he was in there like talking to himself. But anytime I tried to actually like catch him doing it, he would stop. He was very quick. And so we woke up one morning there with all of the family. We had been there for about 2 days. And Joshua's dad and I always said good morning to him the same way. We would say, good morning, Jesh. And he would never say anything back to us. And this morning we did the same thing. We woke up, he woke up, and we said, good morning, Jesh. And he looked at us dead in the face and with the clearest words I've ever heard said, good morning, mom. Good morning, dad.
Huh.
Like perfectly speaking. And from then on, Joshua has never stopped. If you're friends with him, if you know him, um, you can talk,
I talk a lot. I talk a lot.
which is great. I love that because I'm the same way. So
I think as time's gone on, I've gotten a little better at learning when to keep my mouth shut,
it's true.
especially, when talking to the police or anything like
Oh, yeah.
that.
Right. Never talk to the police.
Don't wanna talk that yeah, I mean, I'm not a legal expert, but a little bit of
Yeah,
advice. If you're ever jammed up or have something going on and they're like, "Oh, we're your friends. It'll be better."
No,
Don't talk to them. They're
no,
fucking
we're
lying.
not giving
I
legal
swear to
advice.
God, they're
Here's the
lying.
disclaimer. We're not
Yeah,
giving legal
that's.
advice.
I'm not a legal expert. Not giving legal advice. I'm just saying, me personally, I wouldn't fucking say a word to them if I were you. If I were you.
Yeah. If you were Jesh.
All right. Anyways, that's a little
Yeah.
off topic, but
Yeah, exactly. It's all right. So yeah, I mean that's how you were. And after that, like you were an incredibly active kid. You taught yourself how to swim, which was a huge part of your growing up when you were younger. You loved swimming. We would put you in the pool. You would swim more laps than any kid your age. And we're talking at like 5, 6. And every kid would be wanting to get out of the pool at the end of the hour practice. And you would be still swimming. And your coach would have to be like, get out. And we'd have to be like, Josh, you're going to be in trouble if you don't get out of the pool. Um, you had loads of energy. Yeah, loads of energy.
sounds about right. I mean,
Mhm.
I think with all that energy, I think growing up, I didn't always put it into the best spots. I would,
Yeah,
you know.
that's
Oh, I mean,
true.
that's like all later on in life too. Like, even being in school, like I'd get myself in trouble all the time because I got bored. I would finish my work, I'd be done with everything, and I'd just get bored and have too much energy just sitting around. Like,
Yes.
but I mean, I think school's important. I think that I just I had a hard time with it because of that. Like,
Yeah.
I was just always all over the place, and I mean, I'm not smarter than anybody else, but I just found a lot of it boring. Like, be
Yeah.
done with it, and yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't the thing that you were it wasn't your like favorite thing. Like you never had an issue with stuff. You classes, you could get things done. But yeah, I think bored is a really good descriptor. So for all you parents out there that are listening, if your kid is getting into a ton of mischief and there's a good chance they're bored.
yeah, that's a
that
good
the
way to put it.
whatever they're participating in isn't challenging them enough, and
Easy.
they need to be channeled into more challenging. That's one of the things I think back and wish we could have maybe understood earlier and known about you and your personality a little bit more. But like I said, we were young. We were real young parents,
Hmm.
and there it wasn't like today. I mean, God, that you can't scroll through Instagram without there being just everybody's got advice and there's so much input and things that you can draw from, and so much of that is talked about now so widely, but it really wasn't when you were growing up. You guys are really the first generation that has fully been in a social media age. So it's of course been a rapid expansion of information, but that wasn't out there. The 20, almost what, 22 years ago, almost 23, you couldn't tap into that, um,
And
those resources.
I almost feel like it's getting like worse and worse for kids growing up.
Oh,
Like their
it's
ability to
overload.
like be able to pay attention to things because they have like think about like what TikTok's doing and everything. Like you have to
Mhm.
really like catch their attention to like get them to focus on something. They're constantly, so much information coming in through, their phones and our
Oh,
phones. I mean,
yeah.
ours too. It's hard to like pay attention to like one specific thing and sit and actually like absorb it, or it's
Yeah.
just there's so much to look at, so much to see, so much to hear that I think that's like going to be a big struggle for, future generations and
I would
like the
agree.
kids in school right now and stuff. Um,
It's
it's
interesting.
crazy.
It's interesting, Josh, because I listen to one of my favorite podcasts. Shout out to Rich Roll Podcast. I love that podcast.
It's a great podcast.
Um, I listened to that a lot, and he had some people on his podcast, this husband and wife couple, and they're neuroscientists and some of the best in their field. And they raised their two kids, and both their kids, come across as like, absolute phenoms, like,
Yeah.
smartest and brightest.
geniuses.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I told you about this, but like they were in Stanford at like age 11 kind of type stuff.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
Yeah, so but
That's
one
nuts.
yeah, it is nuts. I mean, it's pretty special. Not everybody's going to be that way, but one of the things that they pointed out that they have learned so much research about the brain and how it works is that when you're younger, it kids do best learning when they can be fully immersive in a subject. So the style of learning that you guys grew up with where it's like little glimpses of things
Yeah.
and you're bouncing between all of them, that was never enough to hold your attention. And I think
Mhm,
you know that about yourself now. You're learning that.
mhm.
You really like to immerse yourself in something and like learn it all. And you were that way with swimming. And they said that when you let a kid immerse themselves in one subject and just let them keep learning until they are no longer interested, their capacity to learn at a young age far surpasses their age. So, like,
Oh
their
yeah.
kids were super into science, and then, one of them was super into science, and they just dove full in. And by the time they were done immersing themselves in it, 7 months later, they were at a freshman college level science.
Yeah.
And then they moved on to another subject. So,
And
I
I
think,
mean, that's not everybody obviously, but I do think like a large majority of people like do well learning that way. I mean, it's so hard to try to, have them go. I mean, when I was young in junior high and stuff in high school, it's like you're going to 7, 6 different classes a day,
mhm,
and you have homework for each class. It's like think about like trying to absorb that knowledge. You start with the science project, and then by the end of the evening, you're working on, an English project.
right, right.
What you learned doing that science project, whatever 6 hours earlier, is pretty much gone at that point. Like you're not actually a lot of the times like able to retain the knowledge or whatever because
Yeah,
you're just so focused on getting to the next one versus like if you had 6 hours to just focus on one subject, like you're saying, like
yeah.
there's a much higher probability that you're going to retain that information and it's actually going to be useful.
Yeah. Oh, totally. That's what their whole premise of that podcast was about. We'll link that podcast, by the way, in like the notes. So if anybody wants to listen to it, it's fascinating
Yeah.
to just learn about the brain and, their take on it. And there was so much more they touched on there about health and wellness and all of that. But I do think that you're a lot of the trouble and a lot of the stuff you got into was because you were bored and your learning style is not that of the typical American way of learning. So,
Yeah, I mean, I remember just even like I said in junior high, high school, even before, like I would get in trouble so much because I would finish like assignments or this and that, and I would just I'm not interested in just sitting in class, just so I
no.
would just leave class. I would just go
Oh, God.
find something to do, go whether it was something as stupid as just walking around the hallways, fiddling my thumbs, or like
Yes.
obviously a lot of other dumb shit I did during school, like hours and
Yes.
but
Yes. We don't need to dive into all of it. We can
Heck
leave
yeah.
some of those stories out. Maybe we'll hit some of those and
Yeah, we'll hit some of those later, but
exactly. Thank you. Spare me a little bit tonight.
all right, we'll take it easy on you this time, but
Got it.
we're gonna get into some of this
Oh,
shit,
I know.
and
I'm
she's gonna hear about it. And then not
I'm
that you don't already know a lot of it, but
I'm ready. I'm ready.
I
I
mean,
just don't need it all tonight.
oh boy, um,
Yeah. No, I will say like okay, so one of the things you've always had a really funny sense of humor. So, I'll say some of the things about Jesh that I love. The kids grew up going to Disneyland. So we were really, really poor when the kids were little. Like, and I mean poor, not like white privileged poor. I mean like really poor. Um, and like don't have food, don't have money, don't know how we're gonna make it kind of stuff. And one of the things though every year is because we were so poor, the US gives out money to people that are that poor on your tax returns. It's like, hey, we're sorry you're so poor. Here's a couple extra $1,000. Good luck. And that's what we would get every year. And people would tell us like we needed to save it and budget it. And we can get into budgeting and saving on another episode. I got a lot of thoughts about that. But when you're that poor, budgeting and saving is not really a real thing. So that's all I need to say right now. Um, but anyway, the point is, we would take the kids to Disneyland every year because the thing we always said to ourselves was they won't remember being this poor. They'll remember that they went to Disneyland every year. Um, do you remember that? Like, does that sound right? Like, do you remember being that poor?
No, I mean, yeah, I remember it, but I do remember like Disneyland was like it was like magical.
Yeah,
To put
exactly.
it in the like being a little kid, like being able to go some. I mean, I'll give you when we would go to Disneyland every year. These guys would like blindfold us once we got
Hmm.
in the cab to get from the airport to Disneyland because
Yep.
they didn't want us to see any of the outside of Disneyland.
Yep.
They wanted us to feel like we were like traveling to some magical land that was, and
Hmm.
that's what it felt like. It was like
It
when we
was an
went to
escape.
Disneyland, it was an escape. It was like
Yeah.
things were hard, this and that, life is scary, whatever. But you feel me? We go to this one place and it feels like you're in heaven for a couple days or
Yeah.
however long they take us for, and it's like it's a
Yeah.
break from reality in a sense.
That, yeah, absolutely. 100%. That's what it was supposed to be too.
And
You
that
remember
definitely like
you guys would earn Disney dollars and I would make you I'd print it out and make like fake Disney dollars. This is
yeah,
before they did gift cards and they would cash out their Disney dollars. And remember one year Jada kept hers and then she thought they would be good the next year at Disneyland and she tried to spend them, the like fake dollars that we had made.
yeah, yeah.
But back to the story. Yeah. But
These
back to
Disney dollars were basically cash ins to our parents. They were like, "Look, this is what we have the budget for each of you," without telling us. But
that's exactly right.
like, you got to cash them in with us, because.
Yep.
But we thought we were like, "Oh, this is like actual Disney cash. This is what you use to pay for
Yeah.
things."
Yep. That's right.
Man, that was.
Yeah. But
I
the
mean,
part
speaking
about
of,
the story, I got sidetracked. But the part about the story that I was getting to was that um, one year Jesh was super into tigers, and being that it's Christmas, we just he hung his tiger ornament that year on the tree. But he walked around Disneyland just randomly growling at people like a tiger, like like just everywhere at random people.
man,
And then one year he was super into Spider-Man. And remember how Spider-Man did the like, I'm doing it on
doodle,
the video, the like shooting thing with his like webs.
yeah,
Um,
the web slinger.
Josh would literally every picture we took, Josh was web slinging in the picture, like putting his hands out, and he would do it to everybody that walked by.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
man.
And then probably one of my favorite memories is when y'all rolled around, you and your sisters, because they're equally as goofy as you.
Oh God,
Um,
what was the term?
when you guys would walk up to people with your pinky and go, "Want to get cut?"
God.
That's real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
random strangers at Disneyland.
Yeah. There's a lot of. I talked to Jada, my little sister, about a lot of this stuff sometimes, and there's a lot of stuff, growing up that you block out. You
Yeah,
like intentionally try to like tell yourself it didn't happen or whoop de whoop or whatever. I mean, Disneyland like was for me like looking back, it's like there's a lot of things I have no recollection of like growing up. Like I've blocked out or you know
yeah,
there's a lot of that, but I look back and it's like some of the most like intense like memories and like clear memories I have are of Disneyland.
hmm.
And that's something I'll be grateful for and hopefully be able to like
Yeah,
whether it's Disneyland or something else, like I want my kids to be able to have something like that growing
for
up.
sure.
I want them to be able to have those memories that life's not always bad or
Yeah,
there's good things to be absorbed and good
yep.
moments. So
Oh, I think that's what it absolutely became. I think one of the things that happens when you grow up in a lot of stress, and you check out, you mentally let go of memories because it's too much, right? It's so much stress to hang on to.
Mhm.
And when we would go to Disneyland, it was like the one place that um, there was far less stress than at home. And really, I think everybody felt a sense of like calm and groundedness, and it was so consistent. And we would connect there and laugh and be goofy. And like, we didn't have a care in the world. All the stress was left at home. And those are really important memories to create. We tried to do that with other things, like taking you guys on road trips and seeing, different places around the country. But
Yeah,
Disney,
I think that's one thing you guys did a pretty good job with, was trying to like provide some memories and experiences that,
yeah, thank you.
were
Yeah, I mean,
considered good.
we did. I mean, we didn't have a lot of resources for that, but we really wanted to give you guys an opportunity to get out and see things outside of the four walls of our house and the town we lived in, and go see Mount Rushmore and Yosemite and Yellowstone and California and the different places. Obviously, we've gotten to do some more international travel as you guys have gotten older, but definitely when you're younger, we wanted to give you guys that sense of adventure,
Yeah.
and that
No,
faith.
that was good for us. That was definitely good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that kept us pushing and remembering
Yep.
the good stuff. You know.
Yep.
So, what about? Okay, we've been talking about Disneyland for a while. I love
Yeah.
Disney.
Yeah.
I actually wanna go to Disneyland and like just vlog a day while I'm out here in LA
Yes.
and just
Yeah.
talk about, because I think I'll add this last point about Disneyland. I think a lot of people like in society kind of like tries to like frown upon or make you look like small for enjoying the things that or enjoy, or
Mm,
you know doesn't want you to love the things that matter to you. And for
yeah.
me, like as like a 22-year-old guy, I don't think like going to Disneyland by yourself is exactly something that, a lot of people would expect. Like maybe
Right.
maybe maybe some, teen girls or this and that would go by. But for me, I don't care. Like I'll go to Disneyland by myself and walk around and just take it in, because it's a happy place for me.
Yeah.
It brings back memories that I love and I cherish. And so I want to go to Disneyland and vlog a day at Disneyland and just kind of talk about what Disneyland means to me, and just don't care what people think. Just try to you know try to
Yeah.
explain and let people know that it's okay to have like, certain things that may not be quote unquote normal or whatever, that you love or you enjoy. And just,
Oh, are you there?
yeah, sorry, I was getting a call, had to hang up
Oh,
on that.
shoot.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was like, oh no, where'd he go? We lost him.
Nah, anyways, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's important, and I think that you have to be able to cherish those things.
Oh, I totally agree. I think that's one of the things that comes with getting older, also, that maybe you're experiencing now too, is you start to care less about what other people think about what's best for you and what matters to you.
Mhm.
And you start to hang on to that for yourself. And everybody is different, like that's part of it. That's like, we just, yeah, we do a lot of judging of people and what fits and what makes sense to somebody. And a lot of times we don't know the backstory. I've shared the
Exactly.
story about us going to Disneyland with a few different people, and when they hear, oh, you've gone to Disneyland a lot, like, wow, why? And then when I tell them the story about you guys growing up and how we set out to do that intentionally, people are like, that's the most amazing thing. Like, wow. So,
Yeah,
um,
I mean, I'll even that goes hand in hand with something else I was gonna kind of bring up. But I mean, this is a little bit of fast forward. But I mean, in high school, so I went to high school in a pretty good area. I went to
mhm,
an area where, a lot of
yep,
families had money, and
Yep.
everything.
A lot of
And I think I had a lot of like kind of resentment towards some of my classmates at times, like because they would just assume like, oh, you don't have any sort of struggles, or you're just, perfect, this and that, you have a family, why are you acting out, or why are you not knowing that, I had a lot of frustration and anger towards the world, or you know
yeah,
different stuff going on. It's crazy though, because those feelings I had towards these people, like at times, like come to find out, later on, after I graduated high school and so on, these people were going through some pretty traumatic things as well, and
yeah,
I didn't even
definitely.
think twice about that. I was so concerned with the fact that I didn't feel like I was fitting into this environment, and all these kids just had money and things were great for them, and I wasn't like them or this and that. But you never really know what, somebody
No.
else is going through. You really don't know. And
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. And I think that has been, that idea. I've told you this before, that I think is so heightened for your guys' generation, because all you're seeing is the clips, the Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You're seeing the highs of somebody's life for the most part. I do think there's a little trend of that changing, where people are starting to be a little bit more honest maybe with the things, but there was a good while there where you never saw anything but the highlight reel of somebody's life. You never got to see the hardship. And
right.
that gives you such a false sense of what's really happening. And like I
Yeah.
told you guys, when I grew up, we didn't have any of that. If my friend called my house to talk to me and I was in trouble with my parents were like, no, you can't talk to her. She's grounded. And then I would show up to school the next day and they'd be like, what did you do? What happened? And so people they knew life wasn't perfect. They knew you were in trouble. They knew, you would call your friend up when things were going hard. You couldn't text, you had to actually call them, and they would hear your voice crying when you were upset,
Mhm.
when something had gone on, and that connection with humans, like that true connection, changes things. I think it lets you see people, um, and more of the humanity that you share,
Yeah,
versus this disconnected, distant view, and only getting the highlights. Had
definitely.
you had more time where your friends were calling you and knew what was going on, and you guys would have known more of the details in each other's life that weren't great. But that's just not how you guys were growing up. You
Right. And yeah,
you
that's
weren't
definitely,
interacting that way.
yeah, that's a real point. I mean, and I was, like you said at the beginning of this podcast, I was always a stubborn kid, so I think
Mhm.
like a lot of the times I wasn't I wasn't vulnerable about any of that ever.
Oh, for
I
sure.
was I was always, trying to cover up or act like whoop de whoop. Like nobody really kind of knew any of that. They just kind of
Yeah.
saw the way I was acting out, or the things I was doing, and just assumed, obviously. And I don't blame them, because
Yeah.
there was none of that vulnerability or honesty. Like,
Well, I think if people looked at the outside of our house and our family, they thought like, oh, these people, they have it all together. They have everything. And so your acting out was more often labeled as because you were spoiled and there was lack of discipline in our home.
hmm,
And that certainly wasn't the case. I mean, we weren't spoiling you guys. I mean, you definitely, by the time you made it to junior high and high school, I mean, we weren't poor anymore. Life was more comfortable, but there was so many other things going on. I mean,
yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't matter how much stuff you have or how many trips you go on when your family's suffering and struggling with, real trauma from the past, and mental health and addiction, which, we struggle with in our house and in our family. Um, all the rest of that, you know, yes, it's great, but it's certainly not an indicator of the health of a home, you know? And it wasn't things were hard. Things were, you know me, I'm always on that side of like, oh, it could have been worse. But at the same time,
Yeah,
like, yes, okay, realistically, sure, of course, anything could be worse. But there was a lot that wasn't good.
yeah,
And, we're still working that out today. We're all still in the journey of learning and growing and digging out that stuff from the past. I'm digging out that stuff from my growing up, and your dad's digging out that stuff. And, you know, uh,
yeah.
that's the thing, right? Like,
So, yeah, that's real for sure. Um, I want to talk a little bit about how some of my choices in my young adult life affected you,
okay.
because
All right. Yeah.
I was just thinking about this, just the fact that we talk about this, and this has
Mhm.
been a conversation we've had plenty of times, but the idea that your choices don't only affect you.
Yeah. Yep.
Obviously, that
Yeah.
goes for all of us. I mean, your choices, my dad's choices, siblings, friends, family, etc. Like,
Yeah.
your choices have an impact on a lot of people in life. And I think for me, I made quite a bit of choices that had a heavy impact on.
Yeah. Well, you did. I mean, for first, part of that is signing up to be a parent. Um, your kids are supposed to be able to learn through life struggles in a safe space, which means as a parent, you're supposed to be there to help them through those things. And sometimes that's easier said than done. Definitely easier said than done. And, sometimes some struggles that you help your kids through, it comes more natural. It's easier to do. And then other times, the struggles that they are facing brush up against something in your own life that you struggle with. And so for me, Josh, like, I struggle a lot with anxiety and fear. And that I'm learning to, dig that out from where that comes from when I was young. But what happens is, a lot of the things that you went through, being out late at night, running with crowds that were not in a great place. Some of that anger that was coming out of you in reckless ways rubbed right up against that anxiety and fear for me. And trying to navigate that and still be the parent that you need to try to be in that moment. Damn, that shit's hard. Like, that is not an easy task.
For
And
sure.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that it's still not my responsibility. It is. And so the fact that I failed a lot in those moments, that's still my responsibility. Um,
What do
but,
you
yeah, go ahead.
what do you think your scariest moment was with me? If you could pick one.
Oh, well, we're at 40 minutes right now. So, do we want to get into this now and push this to an hour? Or do we want to save that for another pod? What do you think?
Now let's run this one right now.
Okay, we'll run this one
I
right
want to hear
now.
this
Let's.
now.
We're here.
Since
All
we're
right,
since
we're
we're
in.
here, let's run it, and then yeah, after this, we
Yeah,
can
all
save
right.
a lot of the rest for another one.
Yeah, okay. So, probably for me, the scariest moment that I had with you, um, and without getting into too much detail, because I don't know that we need to do that. We had some stuff come out in our extended family, and it had a tremendous impact, um, painful impact on some people that Josh and I love dearly. Um, and there was a night that part of the reaction and output of that situation um, led Jesh to make some dumb decisions, and he got himself in trouble. And the trouble wasn't the scariest part. It was the in between when we didn't know where he was and we didn't know what was happening and what was going on. Um, Nobody could find him. Nobody knew where he was. We couldn't get in touch with him. We didn't know who he was. I've never felt like a worse parent than when I called the police that night. Your dad was in a panic. Your dad, I mean, I've never seen him like that. He thought for sure he was going to lose you that night. And so I ended up being the one that kind of had to like muscle up and start calling. And I was calling the sheriff's departments, the police departments, the hospitals, um, you know, asking if they had gotten any reports, had there been calls of an accident. And when I would call the police stations or the sheriff, the King County or Snohomish, and they would ask me like, "Well, who's he with?" I was like, "I don't know." And well, what kind of car is he in? And I was like, "I don't know." And they're like, well, "What direction was he going?" And I'm like, He could be anywhere between Issaquah and Snohomish. I don't know." And I remember one of them said to me at one point, like, "If you don't know, how are we supposed to help you?" And man, that hit hard as a parent, right? Like,
Yeah.
not knowing was the scariest part of it. And fearing that you were making a decision that could not just impact your life, but potentially end your life, um, was, I mean, I think in that moment, I numbed out and zoned out to have to make the calls and do what I had to do. The letdown of that moment was insane because it was just incredibly scary.
Mm.
Like, I just really didn't know what we were going to do. It was the moment where you have to say, like, I might lose my kid tonight. Like, this might be, I might not get to see him again. And
I know you. I know you've shared to me. There's a lot of
yeah,
nights where you thought that I wasn't coming home, or
oh, for
you
sure.
were just waiting for a call from somebody to come
Yeah,
identify my body or things
yep,
like that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like we talked about this recently. Like
yeah,
I for a long time, like up until I would say I'm 22 now, until maybe I hit that 20 mark, like where it was just like every year is like I didn't think I was gonna make it to the next year. Like
yeah,
I just figured, I didn't see a future for myself or anything like that. I mean, yeah, I had dreams. I had, things that I was good at or I won, but I just figured, I'm not gonna get to see those things because
yeah,
it's gonna end before that. So
right. And that feeling was palpable. I mean, that was real. I mean, I can tell you that when we got the call that we did, that you were alive and okay. Um, uh, that was probably the biggest relief I've like ever felt in my life. Because at that point, as a
wait, who
parent,
called you? How'd you know that?
well, we got a call from the sheriff.
Oh, oh.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
forgot.
that's who called us.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, that feeling, I think for any parent, and if you become a parent someday, you'll experience the same thing. You know, I've said this to you guys a lot. Like, I can deal with the fallout from choices. I can't deal with you being gone. Like, that is, and we've said that to each other, right? Like,
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
struggle with depression and, anxiety, as I have, there's times when life just feels like it's too much and you don't want to keep going. Um, Also, trigger warning, Jesh, you'll have to put this in the notes. Sorry, guys. Um,
Yeah.
but but that is, I think, universally the thing that we all fear the most, right? Is losing somebody that we love so much.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's real. Yeah, I mean, I know that was obviously a tough night again without getting into
Mhm.
too much detail. There's a lot going on and a lot more tough nights, but that was one of those nights that I know
Yeah,
for you
that month
guys.
in particular, Liz, remember we talked a little bit, and I honestly, after the fact, like, I mean, probably a year later, maybe, or more. Remember how I told you I literally thought, like, is this how the world ends? Like, is
Yeah,
this it? Like, is the world ending this month?
yeah,
That
that
was
was
a
a
hard
tough
month.
time in life. I was 16, 17, or
Yeah,
16, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough night or tough. That was a tough year. Man, that was hard. I mean,
we're, we're starting with one night, then we're like tough month, then we're like tough year.
no, that was hard.
It was
Yeah,
hard.
I stopped going to school. There's a
Yeah.
lot going on. There's a lot going on. Holy shit. I'm just thinking now back to all of it. Like
Isn't that crazy?
that was probably, I mean, obviously I'm young, but that was the craziest year of my life for sure.
Okay.
I
I'm
think so.
40. I'm I'm about to be 47 in April, and I can tell you that was the craziest year of my life. So, and I hope that there's not another one like it. I hope that was the craziest year of your life as well.
Yeah,
Um,
that was
because
nuts.
it was a lot. And you know what's crazy about that is, like, we're still here.
Facts. Facts.
Yeah, right? We're
It's
still
true.
here.
We are still here. I mean,
Mm.
that's the thing is like you're gonna go through some really hard stuff. Not that we haven't gone through hard stuff since and before that. I mean, but the idea that you'll make it through and it's again like you said at the end of the last episode and like Nana's been saying like yeah,
Yeah.
certain waves. Life is up
Oh,
and
yeah.
down. You're
That was
gonna see
definitely,
highs. You're gonna see
yeah,
lows.
that was definitely a year that felt like we were all drowning.
Yeah, for sure. So,
All of us, but yeah. But here we
yeah.
are. We should end this on a positive note, right? So the positive note is, like, geez, the positive note is that 6 years later, here we are. We're coming up on 7 years, actually, which is crazy. And we're still here. We're all still in the journey. Um, I think we're all better than where we were.
Definitely,
It
definitely.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that things aren't
Still
still
growing,
hard.
still
Yeah.
have things to figure out in life,
Yep.
still making hard choices and
Yeah.
so on. But I will say, like, there's been immense growth since. And I mean, for anybody watching this right now or listening that has known us since that time, like, yeah, I'm sure you guys could vouch and
Hmm.
see that there's been, I would hope you'd say at least a little bit of growth.
Yeah. Well,
But
I mean, there's plenty of
the
people to
process.
us that would definitely say there's been a ton of growth. I think ultimately in
Anybody that
life,
says otherwise, fuck them.
yeah, right, exactly.
Fuck you.
Well, you didn't know us. That's what I'm gonna say. If
Yeah,
you didn't know, you thought you knew, but you didn't know. Um, but I do think at the end of it all, though, whether other people know or see your growth or not, like, if you know you've grown, then you're in the journey.
facts.
And
And that's all that matters.
it is, and that's what you have to keep doing, right? Like,
Hmm.
that's the process of keeping going. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that is a positive note. Real quick,
agreed.
little shout out to my brother B Solness, Brennan Solness.
Yes.
You see these plaques in the background? He worked hard
Yeah.
for those. You feel me? Number one Billboard,
Yep.
certified gold.
Yeah,
Staying on
B's
his
been there
website.
for a long time. You've known him
Yeah.
since the long. He rode this ride with you.
Yeah, Brennan actually, we're gonna have Brennan on for an episode.
Yes.
He knows us very well. We know him very well. B,
Mhm.
you're coming on soon, so just
Yep.
know that.
Soon. Get
But
ready.
and
It's
brother,
the
I also want to say,
Brennan episode.
enjoy London.
Yes.
Get the most out of London, boy.
Have fun. We love that place.
Yes, London is cool. So, all right, well, I think we should wrap it there.
I agree.
Um, this
Well,
was
thanks for the chat.
a good episode. A little bit of
Yep.
conversation time, but we kind of just let this one be free and talk about what we wanted to just kind of talk about between us today. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Love it.
we appreciate you guys for tuning in, and
Yeah.
we'll
Thank
see
you.
you next week. Then
All right. Love you, kiddo.
love you.
We'll do this again, same time next week.
All right,
Okay.
bye.
Peace out.
Try to show you love, but you wanted something different. I know I broke your heart and you'll never be forgiven. Worshiping your love and I made it my religion. But this goes on and on. Why did it last so long? Since you let me go, I've been dropping slow. I'm sorry to double and crush, but right now I triple it up. I don't wanna get this shit up. It's feeling the void of your love. You ain't been around, but I'm hoping you could see.